Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Legal Anchor. Today, I'm in studio, as you can see, and I have a very special guest. However, this guest does not reside in Jamaica, and so it is now a video link. Nonetheless, I have with me a very well known international maritime lawyer by the name of Mr. Umka Pradhan. Mr. Pradhan is an international maritime lawyer and consultant based out of Mumbai, India. He is currently engaged in international shipping, maritime and commercial law for industry clients and consultation services to companies on strategy and management, as also government agencies on the sustainable development of maritime legislation and policy. Mr. Umka Pradhan is someone I've known very well. We studied together at the International Maritime Law Institute in Malta. Over there in Europe, I had an opportunity to see Mr. Umka Pradhan's work firsthand and know how well respected and well-rounded he is as an individual. Mr. Umka Pradhan, welcome to the Legal Anchor.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. And yeah, it was quite a growing experience for the both of us in Europe. And yeah, we did learn a lot. We plan to put everything in practice in the best way we can. And
yes,
and this is a fantastic initiative, the Legal Anchor.
Thank you.
Bringing up, it puts the limelight on a lot of the background work that's being done by lawyers, by people in the industry, because a lot of people know about cargo ships, but they're not exactly aware of the details and the complex nature of the business itself. So it's a very, very fine initiative to get more and more people involved into the industry.
Yes.
So kudos on that.
So, Mr. Pradhan, today we'll be speaking of the Maritime Labour Convention. The Maritime Labour Convention is a very important convention for the seafarers.
Oh, absolutely. So it's considered international maritime law. They have what they call the 4 pillars of international maritime law, and one of those pillars is the Maritime Labour Convention. The others being the SOLAS Convention, safety of life at sea, the prevention of marine pollution, MARPOL, and STCW, the Seafarers Certification, Training and Watchkeeping Convention. So the MLC, as it's colloquially known, is the 4th pillar, and it's extremely, extremely important.
So how does this importance play for the seafarer? What has this revolutionized the maritime industry as it relates to the employment aspect of it?
Oh, of course. I mean, well, there is a twofold effect to the MLC. One, of course, is care of the seafarers, and it's extremely important because well-performing, well-rested, and properly compensated seafarers, eventually it translates into safer shipping, it translates into efficient shipping, and as such, taking care of the major component, that is the crew, is vital. So yes, it has absolutely transformed the industry. It took a little bit of time for everything to come together, but once it did, it is now the model on which most nations are building their rules and regulations regarding their labor laws are concerned, especially with seafarers. There are plenty of components in it, yeah.
So therefore, it would be safe to say then, Mr. Pradhan, that the Maritime Labour Convention and the Safety of Life at Sea Convention are intertwined.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because if you have a well-rested crew, it automatically ends up ensuring the safer operation of a ship. And that's what SOLAS is all about. The same goes for a crew that has adequate amount of, let's just say, as an example, shore leave, for example. Yes. So that the crew doesn't feel cooped up on board. They get to go out.
And what exactly is shore leave for our viewers?
Right. So the crew that's sailing on board these ships, well, their job is 24/7. It's not like the rest of us who can go to office and then go back home in the evening. It's 24/7. You wake up, you go to work, and well, your rest is on board, your sleep is on board. You are interacting with only 22 people most of the time for long periods of time, sometimes 6 months, 8 months. And at that stage, being cooped up in this kind of environment, now I'm sure all of us are well aware of being cooped up because of the pandemic and the lockdowns that we've all faced. It's similar to that, but we can still probably get down and go for a walk into the open air and have a change in scenery, which creates a lot of, let's just say it's relaxing mentally. But the seafarers, unfortunately, have no other choice but to disembark and go out when they arrive at ports. And they're granted what is called shore leave to be able to go out into the port. And yeah, you need either a visa, or some countries have give you the option of maybe moving around within the port limits. So there are multiple options that can be, the seafarers can look towards. But as of right now, because of the pandemic, because of safety issues, because of healthcare issues, unfortunately, seafarers have faced tremendous, tremendous pressure in the last 6 to 8 months, unlike a lot of other labor workers. I mean, yes, of course, loss of jobs, true, but working nonstop 24/7 for 6 months without respite at all is extremely difficult, and not being able to go home either.
Mr. Pradhan, that brings me to our final question. Therefore, how is it important then to have a lawyer? Does a seafarer really need a lawyer in light of this MLC, with us having it there to protect the seafarers? Do they need a lawyer in such a situation anymore?
So at the outset, most reputable companies, most reputable flags of ships and countries have fairly decent rules and regulations and they're followed. Most of the times they're followed. One thing that is very important for seafarers is to ensure that they understand the MLC properly, and for that they need to read it themselves. That's the first stage. And if there
you
is
and
an
I know
issue,
that they're probably not going to do that.
oh yeah, I mean
As two lawyers, we know that.
that's why I implore them to at least give it a read. I mean,
Yes.
I can understand it can get a little cut and dry, but it will give you a clear understanding, at least a basic understanding of what your rights are, what obligations you have to the company or the company has towards you too. And it's extremely important that one understands this. There are, of course, there's guidelines, and then there are regulations, there are rules. So guidelines aren't compulsory. They're just options for which countries can choose to add into their rules and regulations. However, if there is an incident that a seafarer is facing at that stage, yes, it is always better to go and at least consult a lawyer. If not hire a case and start a case right away, at the very least consult someone. It's very important.
Okay, thank you very much for that insight, Mr. Pradhan.
My pleasure.
I'd like to thank you very much for being a guest on our show. And Mr. Pradhan, as I said, is very well knowledgeable, well-rounded, and I'm glad he took the time out of his busy schedule to even have a virtual meeting with me. Mr. Pradhan,
Absolutely.
Thank you once again. It was a pleasure having you on my show.
Thank you for having me on the Legal Anchor.
Yes. Thank you.
All right.